Mrs. Goldberg.
Yes.
We want a baritone. We must have a baritone.
Well, who knows a baritone? Do we have a baritone?
Without a baritone, there's no use to go on with the opera.
Oh, my girls, we must have a baritone.
Piuttosto che le nostre povere gabbane di strioni, le nostre anime come siano poi che siamo uomini di carne e d'ossa, e che di questa le paramanda al pari viva spiriamo recitar mentre presa dal delirio non so più quel che dico e quel che faccio e porre nuova forza ti sei tu porre sei pagliaccio vesti la ciobba e la faccia è farina la gente paga e ridere vuole qua. Applaudila! Ramuta in latino spazio del pianto in una smorfia il singhiata e darà ridi e vario.
Well, Ed, I would encourage every child to study music, not from the standpoint of a career, but believe me, their exposure to music would, if not a professional career, would certainly help them understand music, and I think it would help them become better citizens.
Well, I think it was 1947, I may be wrong, when the Yankees played the Dodgers in the World Series, George Kleinsinger and I became inspired, decided to write a cantata called the Brooklyn Baseball Cantata, having to do with this fantastic World Series. I think he wrote a wonderful little piece, and we recorded it for RCA Victor, and many colleges and high schools and public schools around the country performed the Brooklyn Baseball Cantata.
Well, I think it has a particular nostalgia for those of us who remember baseball in the 40s, and particularly that World Series, which was a colossal one. Bob, let's just sit back and hear some of it.
It's a tense moment, folks. He walks slowly to the plate. The pitcher winds up. Here's the pitch. It's a strike one. Yes, sir, it's a strike, folks. There comes the next pitch. Ball one. And it's 1-1. Here it comes. Strike two, ball two. 2-2. The suspense is awful. Ball three. This is it, folks. This is the pitch. Here it comes. I can't look. It's a home run. The Dodgers win. Brooklyn, Brooklyn, hail to thee, oh Brooklyn, of thee we sing.
I know you've been in Israel many times, Mr. Tucker, and I recall, don't I, that you were there just in advance of and during the course of the Six-Day War in 1967.
That's right, Mark.
Must have been a tremendously important moment for you.
It was a great emotional moment, especially when I was forced to leave after I had visited one of the Army plane bases somewhere in Israel, and sang for the Jewish boys and girls, the pilots from that base. And when I was forced to leave, a few days later, when I gave my final concert, I asked the audience to please give me something that I can bring back to the people of America and of the world. And I asked them to please participate with me by singing the national anthem of Israel, the Hatikva. Well, you can imagine when the orchestra and the audience rose to sing that with me, I had to turn my face away because I couldn't utter a note. I started the word Kol Od Balevo, but after that, I couldn't continue.
To Jan Peerce, Israel, the land of his ancient ancestors, had a special meaning. In the 36 times he returned to Israel, he never ceased to be reminded of the fragile truths of religious freedom upon which this land was founded. Jan Peerce sang 3 more concerts in Moscow, as well as one in Leningrad and one in Kiev. But the highlight of the trip was a Sabbath prayer in the great synagogue of Moscow with Jan Peerce's cantor before hundreds of his people, with thousands more crowding the streets outside. For those who could not worship in the way they wished, their burden was lifted, if only for a moment. The Jewish community of Moscow and Jan Peerce shared a spiritual reunion together.
You have something of a vaunted reputation as a devoted father and grandfather, and I've heard from non-Jewish colleagues of yours that after a Sabbath meal with you and Sarah, they've come away with a new and heightened respect for the Jewish tradition.
Well, first let me say that I think my wife's fame as a cook precedes me wherever I arrive in every city for a concert. And the least we can do is reciprocate by having these people, be they Jew or non-Jewish people, to have them over our home for a Sabbath meal, and they see not only the closeness of our family, but the tradition that we go through on a Sabbath Friday night evening with the singing of the hymns and the different kosher dishes that Sarah prepares. So I think when they leave, they really go home with that warm-hearted feeling.
I will never forget. As a matter of fact, my wife, Marion, does it very well, by the way. She does make a wonderful chicken soup and you can gefilte fish. But these things, Martin, you really never forget. And I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy it today.
And your own youngsters, too, are receiving religious education
Yes, my
today.
youngsters today are receiving a much better religious education than I am. They go to Sunday school, Hebrew school every Sunday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they're learning their Hebrew very well.
Jan and Alice Peerce, the childhood friend he married, and the youngest of their 3 children, live in this Tudor-style house in New Rochelle, New York. This has been their home for 13 years. Good evening, Alice.
Good evening, Ed.
Evening, Jan. Good evening, Ed. Alice, tell me, how much do you see of Jan during the big music season?
Well, I try to be with him as much as possible. Otherwise, I wouldn't see him at all. It's a little bit difficult to divide my time between Jan and Sue, but I manage somehow.
Alice, are any of your children following musical careers?
I must say that they're not. They love music, but each one is going their own way in other fields. Jan, why don't you bring Susan down?
Well, I'll try to find her somewhere in the house. I'm sure I can succeed in finding her. You know, she's a little hard one to find. Susan, why don't you come down here and meet the... Oh, incidentally, this is Mary. Mary Shivers, who's been with our family for 16 years and a great friend, and we love her very dearly. Good evening, Mary.
Good evening, Mr. Merrill.
Sue? Will you come? Evening, Susan.
Hello, Mr. Merrill.
Susan, do you go to school in New Rochelle?
Yes, I do. I'm a senior at New Rochelle High School.
Uh-huh. How's your football team doing?
Oh, is that fabulous? We've got the championship right in our backyard.
The graduating up from the synagogue choir finally landed you in one of the top cantorial positions in this country, that at the Brooklyn Jewish Center.
That's correct.
Was this, in a sense, the culmination of that phase of your life?
Well, for the time being, as a year-round cantor, it was, because the association that I had and still have with Dr. Israel Ebenthal, who was a spiritual leader at the Brooklyn Jewish Center, and whose friendship my wife and family have admired through the years and cherished, that when I was confronted with this transition of assuming this role as a tenor at the Metropolitan Opera, nobody would believe it. And I recall that rumors were being fluctuated or rumored throughout the country of an Orthodox cantor whom we all respected, Cantor Rosenblatt. Had he shaved his beard, they said, he would have sung at the Metropolitan.
Yes, I had heard that also.
But that was the first question I asked Edward Johnson, and he said it was a newspaper rumor more than anything else, because they had admired this great cantor, this idol of the Jewish people. And I was the first cantor to make this transition, and hearing all the sort of pro and con rumors in my synagogue, my wife and I quickly arrived at the decision that I was to leave the Brooklyn Jewish Center as a year-round cantor and assume this new role as an operatic singer at the Metropolitan Opera. The first thing that caught my eye when I stepped out on that stage was the fact that I saw, and I could see people in the audience, I saw Orthodox people with yarmulkes standing around, if you recall the old Metropolitan,
yes,
around the orchestra, looking at me. And for a moment, I didn't know if I was either in a synagogue or at the Metropolitan Opera. And I've always used this term, Martin, by saying that I had more to lose by not making a success than by making a success. And people never understood until I defined it what it meant. Because, God forbid, if I had not made a success as an operatic tenor at the Metropolitan, I was afeared that my role as a cantor would have been damaged, that is, financially speaking, and that no synagogue would want part of me.
I didn't start as a cantor. I started as an altar boy, as a choir boy. In Hebrew, you say a meshorer. And I sang with every great cantor who arrived in New York from the, let's say, from 1912, 1913 to this day. As a youngster, I'd come home after a service with one of the great cantors, and let's say in the Attorney Street Synagogue on the east side, or on Norfolk Street, I'd come home and stand in my dining room on Madison Street, in my little apartment there, and look in the mirror, which hung on the wall, and I would imitate the man I had just done a service with.
The Bel Canto asks forgiveness for a long list of sins, and the Kol Nidre asks release from oaths and vows. It starts quietly and builds to a stirring demand, as prescribed by the Jewish law.
Here, like I, hold your head up high, till you find the bluebird of happiness, and you never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
I was too heavy for light work, I was too light for heavy work. The Broadway people said I belong in the opera, the operatic people said I belong on Broadway. This one said the musical, the other one said go down to the Jefferson Theater, go into the mountains, play with an orchestra, sing in Lakewood. You know, everybody had a job somewhere else for me.
E soldi stragi e morti non giovani a tornar, non giovani a tornar. for the days dwindle down to a precious few. September, November, ma si era pentiti giovani cor dei vespere non pari. Dio me saudì, Dio me saudì, Dio me
remember coming to New York to sign my contract with the Metropolitan Opera Company. What a scene that was in office when I signed. Everybody was there. Getta Cazzezza, Binza, Bori, Melchior, Martini, Martinelli. Also one foreigner, Robert Merrill.
L'aurora di bianca vestita, già l'uscione schiude al gran sol, di già con le rose sue dita, carezza dei fiori lo sol.
And Alice is a wonderful cook, and one day she prepared little knishes, liver knishes, and although he wasn't allowed to eat, he was always on a sort of a light diet,
he began to eat with both hands, and he said, "Oh, what a great Italian dish this is." And I corrected him. I said, "Maestro, this is not an Italian dish." "Oh, no," he says, "it is Italian." I said, "No, it's not. It's a Jewish-Russian dish." He said, "It must be Italian." I said, "Why do you say it must be Italian?" He said, "It is so good that it must be Italian."
Bob, wasn't La Traviata also the opera which was the vehicle for your European debut?
Yes, Martin. La Traviata has become, I think, my lucky opera. I made my debut in it in '45, sang it with Maestro Toscanini that very same year, and for RCA Victor recorded the duet, second act duet with Licia Albanese, which won an award that year as the best classical record. Made my debut in Italy, in Europe, in Venice, in the theater La Fenice, in La Traviata, in the very house where La Traviata was first given and conducted by Giuseppe Verdi. So you see, it's become quite symbolic with my career.
Didn't the Italians think that you were an Italian when you sang in Venice?
Well, they must have, because the billboards, the first billboard I saw when I walked to the theater, for my first rehearsal, and there it was, Chermont, Roberto Merrill.
It's a wonderful way, la-la-la-la. If anyone asks you how you are, it's proper to say, così, cosa, così, cosa. If a lady should ask you if you care, you don't have to start a love affair. Say, così, cosa. Does it mean yes? No. Does it mean no? Well, yes and no. Così, cosa. Get together and talk, la-la-la-la. It's easy this way, so try today and learn to say, così, cosa. Così, cosa.
Well, yes, I heard many wonderful songs in the house, some very old Yiddish songs, and of course the operatic. But there are some songs that I really have never forgotten, especially this little song that I'd like to sing, by the way, if I may, if I remember the words. A song that is hundreds and hundreds of years old. It's picture a little rabbi in a little old house in Poland many years ago, a little fireplace and a bunch of kids sitting around, and he's trying to teach them the Hebrew language. It's called Up in Pripyat.
Life in Pripyat brennt a fire und ein Stieb ist heiß und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinderlach dem Aleph Beis und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinderlach dem Aleph Beis. Seid ihr Kinderlach, gedenkt ihr Teire, was ihr lernen du, sag ihr noch amul und tak ihr noch amul, kommet's alle wo, sag ihr noch amul und tak ihr noch amul, kommet's alle wo. Lern Kinderlach mit groß Geschick, azoi zog ich euch wer es wird von euch kennen übre, der bekommt Arfun, wird es von euch kennen übre, der bekommt Arfun. Sucht ihr noch amul und tak ihr noch amul, kommet's alle vor. Sucht ihr noch amul und tak ihr noch amul, kommet's alle vor.
To what degree do you feel that your singing as a cantor, that open style of singing, reflected healthily in your work later on, or did it not?
You know, to sing, whether you sing as a cantor or if you sing opera, is not a great difference. There's a difference in the language. There's a difference, not even in the emotion. Because if you sing of love and you sing towards a girl and you sing of love towards God, there must be the same intensity.
Do you feel, as some have said, that there's something of a relationship between cantorial music and certain of the, how shall I say it, the embellishments that operatic composers have written for?
Well, no, I don't find that difference. I've said this many times before, Martin, that there's only one way to sing, the right way. There may be difficulties when it comes to guttural sounds, this I will admit. But I will say in general, the singing is the same in any language. So may it be cantorial or operatic singing, it's the same voice, the same throat. Mm-hmm. And if you do anything to impersonate, you're not singing, you're yelling.
Yes. What about operatic roles? I'm thinking now of such a part as Eliezer in Halevy's La Juive, which have a particular Jewish aspect and identity. Not too long ago, you sang Eliezer in a concert performance in Carnegie Hall. Do you think there's a chance that we'll be seeing a staged production at the Met?
All I can add to that, Martin, is that I'm ready and willing to sing it. In fact, I've offered Mr. Bing, I once had an offer from two gentlemen to pay for the production, and he has refused. I hope and pray that he will change his mind, because I think I have arrived now at the pinnacle of my career, and there are very few roles left for me to sing. And Eliezer in La Juive, I think, will be the pinnacle of my career.
È sempre misero chi a lei s'affida, chi le confida, ma le cauto il cuore. Urla e non senti, felici appieno, chi su quel seno non liba amore. La donna è mobile, ma più mal vento, e muta la scelta, e di pensier. Di pensier. Dell'universo in amore io vivo quasi in ciel, io vivo in ciel dell'universo in memore, io vivo quasi in cielo, io vivo quasi in cielo, io vivo quasi in cielo. Figaro, e Figaro, che furia, che folla, una alla volta, per carità, una alla volta, per carità. E Figaro, son qua, e Figaro, son qua. Figaro là, Figaro qua, Figaro su, Figaro giù, Figaro su, Figaro giù, Figaro su, con le partecipa, se che me ne puoi venire, sono il patrone, dalla città. Bravo Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, fortunatissimo, per verità. Bravo Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, tir fattune, non mancherò. Sono il fattoso e bella città, sono il fattoso e bella città,